A coil got 99% cleaner, and the air test never noticed. That's number 8 on this list. Not a forum post. Not a contractor's hunch. A double-blind crossover trial ran in 3 office buildings and got published in the Lancet in 2003. Researchers mounted ultraviolet lamps over the cooling coils and the drain pans. The surfaces lost 99% of their living microbial load. The endotoxin went with it. But the airborne readings showed no significant drop at all. The air sample isn't lying to you. It's measuring the wrong thing. Wet biofilm on a cold coil doesn't fling itself into the room on command. The moisture film holds it down. So a spore trap running on your kitchen counter reads normal, while the coil 20 feet away sits fully colonized. 8 things on this list survive a clean air test. Every one of them ends up in the room your system can't cool. And the last one undoes the title of this video. By the end, you'll know the 8 failures a clean air test hides, plus the 3 fixes that cost less than lunch, and the honest reason $9 can't fix every hot room. So, back to number 8. You paid somebody to come out with a pump and a little cassette. They mailed it to a lab. The report came back comparable to outdoor, and you felt relieved. But that 99% figure is the whole problem in one statistic. Surfaces filthy, air clean. Same building, same day, same lamps. Those lamps ran continuously, aimed straight at the wet metal. That was the only thing that changed. The occupants didn't move. The filters didn't change. The ducts stayed exactly as built. That study wasn't measuring your house, obviously. It was measuring commercial units in Montreal. But the physics of a wet coil doesn't change when you move it into a hallway closet. Remember that number, because it comes back at number 2. It changes how you read the upsell sitting on your quote. Number 7. The mold report itself. The American Industrial Hygiene Association publishes guidance on spore-trap sampling, and it says the quiet part in writing. A single sample cannot be considered representative. Results can vary substantially, even for samples collected at the same time in the same location. So 2 cassettes, 1 counter, 1 hour, can disagree with each other. The Environmental Protection Agency goes further on its own duct cleaning page. Some growth on a settling plate is normal, and other testing methods are not reliable. The same industrial hygiene guidance says something contractors rarely repeat out loud. In many cases, the air sampling need not be performed at all, if visible growth is already there. Look at the coil first. The lab comes second, if ever. A report like that is a photograph of 1 second of air. Your coil has been accumulating since the day it went in. Your report probably wasn't a fraud, but it was a snapshot of the wrong surface, handed to you as a verdict on the whole system. Number 6. The switch on your wall, marked fan on. Researchers at the Florida Solar Energy Center ran a system on a 10-minute cycle. They left the blower running the entire time. Then they measured how much of the water it had just pulled out of the air went straight back in. 19%. The coil is soaked at the moment the compressor stops. A fan that keeps blowing across it evaporates that water back into your house. Work by Hugh Henderson, presented at an ASHRAE indoor air quality conference, found the same effect at part load. Moisture removal fell below half of rated capacity. I get it. You set it to on because you wanted circulation. But what you actually installed was a small humidifier with a filter in front of it. That moisture has to go somewhere, and it goes back into the room as humidity you then pay to remove again. A coil that never fully dries is a coil that stays hospitable. And nobody flagged the setting, because a setting isn't billable work. Number 5. The smell everybody has a theory about and nobody has proof of. It's called dirty sock syndrome. It turns up on heat pumps across the humid South. The industry estimate runs 0.5% to 2% of them. Engineers at Trane went looking for the organism responsible. Their own published position says they took numerous air samples looking for a common denominator, with no successful results. A trade report in the Acre News put it plainly. No one seems to know for sure what causes it. The closest thing to a real identification landed in 1997. A paper in the Journal of Industrial Microbiology and Biotechnology examined an evaporator pulled for odor complaints, densely colonized by Penicillium veridicatum. That's a fungus. It isn't toxic black mold, and anybody selling you that phrase is guessing. I'd rather hand you an honest unknown than a scary certainty. But the trigger condition is documented. Shoulder season heat pumps swing between heating and cooling, and the coil never picks a state. Pause here for a second. Numbers 8, 6, and 5 are the same problem wearing 3 different costumes. Water that arrives on schedule and never leaves. A coil that stays wet grows a film. A film that stays wet feeds an odor. And a test taken across the room cannot see either one. 1 root cause, 3 symptoms, 3 separate invoices. Tell me in the comments if that smell shows up in October. The timing is the tell. If you've made it this far, subscribe, we do this every week. And the list never gets shorter. Number 4. The filter you upgraded to be safe. A 2007 study by Yang, Braun and Grohl measured dust reaching the coil behind different filters. A MERV 14 passed roughly 30 times less dust than a MERV 4. So higher is better, right? But work out of Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory found something less flattering. Typical coils foul enough to double the airside pressure drop in 7 to 11 years. And the biggest driver isn't the rating printed on the box. It's the gap around the frame. Air takes the easy path, every time. A thick filter that doesn't seal in the slot sends unfiltered air straight at the coil. Meanwhile, it restricts everything that does go through it. That isn't a marketing problem. That's geometry, and you paid extra for it. Number 3. The pan under your coil. ASHRAE Standard 62.1 sets the requirement in plain language. Drain pans must slope at least 1/8 of an inch per foot. The outlet has to sit at the lowest point. Pans under negative pressure need a trap. Without one, the blower pulls air backward up the drain and breaks the siphon. Get either detail wrong, and you have standing water inside your air handler. In the dark, at room temperature. The Environmental Protection Agency puts its version in a single sentence. Remove standing water under cooling coils. And if your instinct is to pour bleach down there, plenty of manufacturers now advise against it. Bleach attacks aluminum coils and metal pans. So the home remedy quietly bills you for the replacement. It's a slope, not a component. But nobody ever inspects a slope. Number 2. The ultraviolet light sitting on your quote. This is where that 99% comes back. The Lancet trial is real. Coil irradiation genuinely disinfects a surface. Occupants in that study reported fewer mucosal and respiratory symptoms with the lamps running, but the same trial found airborne concentrations showing no significant reduction. So it's a coil hygiene tool. It is not an air purifier. Anybody selling it as an air purifier is selling you the wrong half of the study. 2 more things worth knowing before you sign anything. Lamps at 185 nanometers generate ozone, and lamps at 254 don't. Ask which one is going in. And the ionizer that gets packaged alongside it is a different product with a different record. A 2021 paper in Building and Environment tested an induct needlepoint ionizer. It measured acetone rising about 73%. Number 1, and this is the one that undoes my own title. The room your system can't cool was probably never a coil problem. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory measured residential duct leakage averaging around 22% of air handler flow. The Department of Energy puts losses through leaky attic and crawlspace ducts higher still, 25 to 40% of the energy moving through them. And the Florida Solar Energy Center measured what happens when you shut an interior door with no return path. The room pressurized to 38 pascals. The rest of the house went negative. Field measurements have shown supply air to a closed bedroom falling from about 171 cubic feet per minute, down to roughly 143. So a door, closed at night, throttles the air to the room you sleep in. No $9 product on earth seals a duct in your attic. But I'd rather tell you that than sell you a tablet. The point was never to scare you out of your own house. It was to stop you paying 4 figures for testing that structurally cannot answer the question you asked. So here's what actually works. Cheapest, first. And you get the limitation on every one of them. A recommendation without a caveat is just an advertisement with better manners. The free one, first. Move the fan from on to auto. That single switch stops the re-evaporation the Florida lab measured. It's the most reliable humidity fix in this entire video, and it costs nothing. Honest caveat, you do give up something real. Continuous fan mixes the air and keeps pulling it through your filter. So if you run a serious filtration setup, or somebody in the house has allergies, you're trading one benefit for another. My own view, in a humid July, auto wins, and it isn't close. But that's your call to make, not mine. Next, the drain. A jug of white vinegar runs a few dollars. It's what most manufacturers prefer over bleach for routine flushing. Pour it down the access port, give it time, then check that the trap is actually holding water. Honest caveat, vinegar maintains a line that already flows. It will not clear a real clog. A clog wants a wet-dry vacuum on the outdoor end of the drain. Honestly, it's a 20-minute job you can do standing up. But skip it 2 summers running, and you'll meet the pan from number 3. And the one that gets you to $9. Buy the filter that genuinely fits the slot. Then close the gap around the frame with foam weather strip. Cheap, unglamorous, and it does more for coil cleanliness than jumping 2 MERV ratings. Honest caveat, do not chase the highest number on the shelf. A restrictive filter on an undersized return starves airflow. It holds the coil colder and wetter for longer. That hands you the exact problem you were trying to prevent. Correct size, sealed edges, and a rating your blower can actually pull through. That's the whole trick. So the core of it is this. A clean air test describes the air in one spot, at one moment. It was never built to clear a wet metal surface sealed inside a box in your hallway. You now know the difference between those two things. That's more than the person who wrote your report bothered to explain. And yes, I know I just spent 11 minutes telling you a $9 fix won't fix everything. But it fixes the part that genuinely is cheap. And it tells you which line on the quote to argue with. Open the panel. Photograph the coil. Take that picture to the next contractor, because a photograph outranks a lab report every time. Next time we're pulling apart the warranty language that quietly turns a 10-year parts promise into 5. Plus the registration window almost nobody meets. Drop in the comments what your last air quality test cost you, because I want to see the spread. YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so click it. And if you made it to the end, subscribe,